Right, let's get to this now. A rare admission from Max Verstappen. The Red Bull driver says that he was at fault for crashing with George Russell at the Spanish Grand Prix. But the four-time world champion stopped short of apologising to the Mercedes driver. Instead, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner confirmed the four-time world champion said sorry to his team for the incident. It happened 2 laps before the end of the race. Verstappen was told by his team to let Russell pass following an earlier clash. It appeared Verstappen was listening to that order. However, he then seemed to drive directly into the side of the Mercedes driver before overtaking him again. The stewards gave Verstappen a 10-second time penalty for the incident, which dropped him from 5th to 10th, while also adding 3 penalty points to his super licence. Verstappen posted on social media to say this: "We had an exciting strategy and good race in Barcelona till the safety car came out. Our tyre choice to the end and some moves after the safety car restart fuelled my frustration, leading to a move that was not right and shouldn't have happened. I always give everything out there for the team and emotions can run high. You win some together, you lose some together. See you in Montreal." Right, let's get more on this story. David Croft joins me live now. Always lovely to speak to you, David. Look, when we saw it unfold in real time, with time to reflect on it now, what do you think about what happened? What do you feel?
Well, the first angle we saw, it didn't look quite as bad as the overhead helicam shot that we saw, where he clearly does drive into George Russell, and it clearly was a deliberate move. And I don't think Max Verstappen would have come out with a statement today if it wasn't a deliberate move. And I'm glad to see that he has come out with that statement as well. I think Max is showing some remorse for the incident. Yeah, it's that move there to the right, I think, that gives the game away on that one. Christian Horner didn't really say much about it after the race yesterday. I suppose he felt at the time he couldn't defend the indefensible. Max, in the heat of the moment, with the adrenaline still coursing through his veins, didn't want to apologise, didn't want to admit that it was a mistake and a misjudgment, but taking time to reflect on it overnight, he's a much more calm man about the situation. And I think this is Max saying, look, I regret what happened, without saying I regret what happened and without using the word sorry. It is an apology. I hope we can draw a line under it to a certain extent as well, because these are not the sort of incidents I want to see define Max Verstappen's career, because he is way, way better than this sort of incident.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And we all have a character, don't we, in any sport? But it's the sport that you can't really afford to have a character like that, because it becomes very, very dangerous. Your commentator, Nico Rosberg, suggested that Verstappen should have been disqualified. What punishment do you feel was appropriate? Did he get the right punishments?
Yeah, Nico was saying that's a black flag. That's a black flag. And I totally get where Nico was coming from on that one. And I'm sure there were plenty of people watching live on Sky Sports F1 saying very much the same thing. But whilst a 10-second time penalty might not seem a lot, that might seem like a bit of a slap on the wrist, in giving that 10-second time penalty, the stewards demoted Max to 10th place. So he picked up just 1 point. And that big loss of points, I think, is the appropriate punishment for that. It was Max's actions that caused that. Max should therefore take the full hit, and he has done. Now, his team have also taken a hit by losing constructors' points as well. But I think it was the right penalty. You could have done a 10-second stop-go penalty, which would translate to 30 seconds on your race time. You'd have finished completely out of the points. Maybe that could have been a penalty they chose as well, but not necessarily a black flag. Although I can understand people calling for that. I'm not one for massively harsh penalties like that, but enough to make Max think twice. And the key second part of the punishment for the stewards, I think, will make Max think twice again, because you mentioned it, those 3 penalty points he picks up now, which means he's got 11 penalty points against his super license. If you get 12 within the course of a season or a 12-month period, then that's a 1-race ban. Now, he's got 11 now, Max, and 2 points come off after the Austrian Grand Prix. So he's going to have to go into the next 2 races knowing that any misdemeanor on track, anything that falls foul of the stewards, could result in another penalty point being given, and therefore he would miss a race, which, if it happened in Austria, he'd miss the British Grand Prix.
Oof. You know him more than most. Is he going to change his style? Will he change anything? Or will he run that risk?
Well, he'll run the risk. In Formula One, it's difficult to say, Vicky, that you've got time to think twice in the heat of the moment because things happen so quickly. But I wouldn't imagine Max would want to push it that close with the stewards, and I can't see him doing anything as a premeditated move that might pick up more penalty points. So yeah, I think he will behave himself.
Okay, heard it here first. Look, he's got this kind of love-hate relationship with Russell, hasn't he? And we thought it was, the bromance was starting to bloom, but it feels like it isn't. Do you feel this rivalry is just going to keep on chugging along throughout their careers?
Absolutely, because they find themselves in the same part of the track together quite a lot because they're racing at the sharp end. So there's plenty more opportunity for those flashpoint incidents to occur. Started out in Baku when they had a bit of a war of words and Max was shouting at George in the pit lane, and it's carried on. Do they rub each other up the wrong way? Yes, because they're rivals on the track and they're both trying to beat the other one. Is there a respect there from both sides? Yes, of course, I think there is. And I thought George was very careful in his words when he was speaking to Rachel Brooks after the race yesterday as well. But Max is a strong character. George is a strong character. And when the two come together, yeah, you're going to get rubbing antlers from time to time. So this will carry on, but I don't think they're going out looking for trouble with each other. It's just they happen to be on the same part of the track as each other more often than not.
Yeah, the neutrals are enjoying it, though. I'm certainly enjoying
yeah.
it. Look, another win for Oscar Piastri, though. He's now got a healthy lead over Verstappen, hasn't he? Do you see the championship as kind of a two-horse race between the McLaren drivers now?
I don't know. We've only had 9 races. There were 24 in the season. Lando Norris was speaking in the press conference saying on Thursday that it was stupid if anyone thought it was just between himself and Oscar for the rest of the season. Max is definitely not out of it. But I thought one of the key things about Sunday's race was the lack of evidence that the new technical directive from the FIA has made any difference to McLaren whatsoever. Now, if you haven't been following Formula One, you'll see the wings at the front of the car bending from time to time with the force, the downforce, and the loads that are put on the cars. They can't be completely stiff, otherwise they break. And the FIA have reduced by 1/3 the amount of flexing that goes on the front wing. Now, Red Bull, we believe, were making inquiries to the governing body as to, are McLaren flexing their wings too much? Is this where they're getting their advantage from? We think that you should take a stiffer line on how much these wings flex. And eventually the FIA issued a technical directive, and from Spain onwards, 1/3 less flexing. And McLaren kept saying, it's going to make no difference to our competitive pace. Red Bull are looking in the wrong places, they were saying. And it appears that Red Bull actually might have been looking in the wrong places, because all McLaren did to their wing was put a little 50-pound bracket onto it to stiffen it up, and Oscar Piastri still won, and Lando Norris still finished second, and they still increased their advantage at the top of the Constructors' Championship as well. So maybe Red Bull might need to try and get a few more spy photos and look elsewhere to McLaren's secret. And what's happened on the track, with McLaren's pace not being affected by this technical directive, will have more of an impact on Max Verstappen's championship chances than his run-in with George Russell at turn 5.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? The flexi wings debacle. I know that Lewis Hamilton certainly had plenty to say about it. He did also blame himself for a poor performance yesterday, didn't he, Lewis? What do you make of how it's going for him at Ferrari?
He basically finished and got the same average amount of points as he's got before the Spanish Grand Prix this season with Ferrari, but he was massively down when he was talking to Rachel Brooks, and actually apologized to Rachel for being so down when the cameras stopped rolling. It's not going as well as Lewis would have hoped. It's certainly not going as well as Ferrari would have hoped. Lewis didn't know when he was speaking to Rachel Brooks, when he said, yeah, it must just be me, I don't know what's going wrong. He didn't know that there was damage on his car and there was something wrong with his car. And Ferrari haven't been too specific as yet with exactly what was wrong. I'm sure once he gets a chance to debrief with the team, that will improve his mood a little bit, in that it's not him. And I don't think it is him. You don't stop becoming the greatest racing driver overnight. And I do think Lewis Hamilton is the best Formula One driver of all time. You might lose a little bit of sharpness once you get to 40, as Lewis Hamilton celebrated his birthday at the start, his 40th birthday at the start of this year. And in qualifying, that might become more apparent. But you certainly don't lose your racecraft. And his performance in Imola, making up for being 12th on the grid, his performance in Monaco, where he picked up a place in that race, and his performance in the sprint weekend, the sprint race in China, shows that he's still got that racecraft. He can still come through the field. But, you know, if you're driving with kind of one wheel tied behind your back, as it were, then you're not going to produce the results that we've seen from Lewis Hamilton in Barcelona before. And it's a track he's gone really, really well at. Canada is another track where Lewis has gone spectacularly well at over the years, where he picked up his first win in Formula One back in 2007, his first pole position as well. So maybe getting back to what you love and what you know, and Canada being one of those tracks, will be a huge boost for Lewis. We shall see. And we keep our fingers crossed, because no one wants to see Lewis Hamilton not being competitive. We want to see some of the moves that have thrilled us so much over the years.
Yeah, we certainly do. Always lovely to get your thoughts. Thanks ever so much, Crofty.
Cheers, Vicky. Have a great day.